I think when people think about films for the first time, they think that they're actually like filmed plays. You know, the way you make a film is you kind of do it like a play. You have the actors rehearse, and then they do it, and you put up the camera, and you film it, and you have a film. And most people, and I think most people when they start off, don't realize how different a film is from the theater.
You know, we live in a very visual society, and whether a person is educated and knows their art history or not, they still have a file in their brain of all these images. And so as filmmakers, we tap into all those images.
When we talk about deciding where the camera should go, or what kind of lens to use, or you know, how high off the ground the camera should be on a tripod, that's all influenced by what the director's vision of the story is going to be. Where in the beginning of Ashpet, the camera's almost always looking down on her, on the lead character, and looking up at the bad people, the antagonists. When the camera's higher than the person that the camera's photographing, there's a psychological impact involved there. It's literally looking down on that person. That person is reduced in significance and strength. It'd be a pretty emotionally isolating experience to live there.
Oh, hush up, girls. Now, Ashpet, get in the kitchen.
But when she gets to the ball, the camera's now at her eye level. The camera's no longer looking down on her because she's recovered her identity. And also, we're not shooting wide angles anymore. We're shooting, you know, very narrow telephoto angles, and everything's very compressed. And so there's not a lot of distance between people. It's a very warm, sort of close feeling.
A great film has a great story, but it also, all the pieces, all the parts, the camera work, the lighting, all of that works together to strengthen that story. In that one scene where Mutsme gets closed into that chop house with the machinery and everything, she goes from a very bright outdoors environment to just slivers of light that reveal just portions of what that room has in it. And it's kind of a frustrating, hard time. And I think the lighting helps to convey that. What Robbie does, acting-wise, is spectacular. It's very good. But the lighting has to work along with it. It can't be in conflict with that.
A lot of times you'll shoot a scene in a variety of different ways, and then you can reconstruct it in editing. The thing is that you maybe shoot a master shot, a fairly wide-angle shot of a scene. That scene, usually when you shoot that wide-angle shot, is somewhat like filming a scene from a play. Then you go back and you start you break the scene down and you start picking out important elements. You do close-ups of different actors in that scene so that you can cut to them, and by cutting to those close-ups from the master scene, you can create a kind of intimacy or intensity that isn't in the master scene. The other thing that you might want to cut into is to cut to what the people looked at. Now, in the scene in Mutsmeg, when you see the girls come in and sit down in the cabin for the first time, Mutsmeg thinks there's just something going on in that room that isn't right, so she's looking around. Notice in the wide shot, you don't even notice those things. But in a film, Mutsmeg can look up like this, and then suddenly you have a cut of a hawk's foot hanging from the ceiling, of some strange items on the mantelpiece, of those chalk marks that she sees on the mantel. And, of course, that's what she's seeing. The other characters aren't noticing those.
I love that tune. Don't they just stay with you?
There's an imaginary line that is established between the actor and what he's looking at. Now it's very clear that I'm looking at someone who is sitting on that side of the camera. And if I change and look over in this direction, then I'm looking at someone who's on this side of the camera. Now, depending on how you cut this all together, will tell whether that person's there or that person's there. If we shoot one close-up, as we did in Mutsmeg, several months after we shot the other close-up, and if we keep the axis line straight, when it's all cut together, it will look like they're standing 3 feet apart and talking to one another. Because we shot the girls down in Madison County, North Carolina.
Hello? Anybody home?
And then we shot the scared woman up here on your farm in Northern Virginia. We built enough of the doorway for her to look out that it fit into that cabin that they were standing in front of. The girls weren't standing there. There was crew people standing where the girls should be to give her something to look at. And she just looked over there and acted up a storm.
Action. Don't you gals know what you're getting to? Go on, go back where you come from. The bones will tell. The bones will tell. Go back. Go back before the doc comes and the dog howls. Go on, go back where you come from and leave me be.
Get stuck in a rut. You try to keep doing the same thing, and sometimes it's much better if you can suddenly get a wild idea and do something completely different, a different approach. And after trying to use this bucket with an artificial head in it, finally the idea was to put a real head in there, put the witch, the actress that was doing it, and just have her head in the bucket. And it was really very easy. Just cut out the bottom of the bucket, cut a hole in the tabletop, stick the bucket on there, and she's under the table with her head showing through. But it took a little bit and a little batting the ideas back and forth about how to do it to finally get what was really a fairly easy and good-looking solution, because that's one where everybody looks at it and says, oh.
920, 940.
That head stinks.
It sure does. Let me move it.
The way that these tricks are accomplished in a film is people tend to think about films like plays. They think that it's all happening in sequence, it's all happening in order, and it's not. And being an editor, you can play on that. The editing is everything. It's putting it all the pieces together.
I'd like to introduce one of the key actors in our film, Mutzmeg. This dog's name is Bungie, and I'm very glad that Benji is behind a cage. Now, there was no way with a dog like this that is so... Come here, Benji. So unpredictable and dangerous that we would be able to work with an actresses with this dog. So what we did is we shot the scene with Mutzmeg and her two sisters when they come to the cabin without the dog. And I got down on all fours like this as the girls came in and barked at them.
It was one of the crew sitting there on all fours barking at us, trying to make us scared, trying to make us appear scared. I never saw the dog. They just kind of spliced that on into the movie.
There's no way a dog is going to run into a sack. Even if you have Lassie on the set, you say, run into the sack, Lassie. Lassie's going to go, uh-uh.